I want to take some time to discuss training to failure. Now, training to failure is one of the most predominant factors that we modulate in training, and it has vastly different outcomes on your physiology depending on how far away from failure you are training. We use each of these proximities strategically. So there's a difference between being 3 reps from failure, being 5 reps away from failure, or being 10 reps away from failure. And I'm going to explain what the differences are. Now, failure is the point where you can no longer achieve the task. Let's say you want your chest up and you're dumbbell benching. It's when you try to push and you literally cannot perform the movement anymore. So that's our standard. Now, I didn't say you tried to push and you lost your shoulder position and then you couldn't perform the movement or you got too unbalanced. I'm assuming that your technique is perfect and that you can actually push to the point where the muscle can no longer produce enough force and then you fail, and it's not your technical ability, your tolerance of discomfort, or your breathing that gave out first. And that's the first thing that you got to really analyze about yourself. Let's go through them. 10 reps plus away from failure. I will give a little bit of context here. There was a study done where they got people to guess how many reps they were away from failure, and the average trainee was like 8 reps off. They literally had 8 more reps to do before they were actual failure. That's cooked. That is insane. So the average person is nowhere near failure in the gym. Okay, 10 reps from failure. Other than being new to the training stimulus, you're probably not doing much of anything in terms of growing muscle mass or stimulating a lot of strength adaptation from being 10 reps or more from failure. 9 to 8 reps from failure. This is usable for easing back into exercise or practicing some general movement. Just gliding through stuff, getting your body moving, getting it feeling good. 7 to 6 reps from failure. Perfect for learning new technique or bringing in a complex movement after a break. So let's say you haven't back squatted in ages. It's your first back squat session in 6 months. Stick right away from failure. 6 to 7 reps in the tank. Perfect place to reintroduce your technique, get the flow of it, get the vibe of it. Heavy enough that you're lifting weights and you're sweating, not too heavy that you're going to have to worry about not being able to make a rep. If you're practicing something complex, maybe you're doing a log press or something, this is a good intensity range to start learning and making small technique adjustments to try to nail and dial that technique in. 4 to 5 reps from failure. This is where a lot of strength training actually occurs. Counterintuitively, a lot of people think strength training is very hard, very close to failure. And while strength training is very hard, it's difficult because you're trying to nail the technique and use a lot of energy and perform the movement very powerfully and well. But most of it is most productive when it's not that close to failure, when you're leaving 4 to 5 reps in the tank. If you're using an RPE system, that means a 5 or 6 RPE. And almost every one of my powerlifting clients will be very familiar with that because we start pretty much every program off at a 5 and then a 6 RPE. Great for working on technique and getting smoother and better technique expressions when you do those lifts while still getting stronger and still stimulating a bit of growth. 2 to 3 reps from failure. This is probably where the majority of you should spend most of your time in the gym. It's the MVP intensity for strength gains and solid for building muscle or technical exercises. So we kind of get so many things covered here. If we're trying to get stronger, that's a fine proximity to failure to train at. So 2 to 3 reps in reserve, 2 to 3 reps from failure. For growing muscle, perfect, especially on more complex exercises where if you went too close to failure, your technique would break down and your lifts will look shit, not giving you the proper adaptation you'd want in terms of muscle building from the exercise. I can assure you, 2 to 3 reps from failure is hard training. On a curl, yeah, maybe it's like not super difficult or anything like that. But on a squat, on a leg press, on a Smith machine squat, on a bench, that shit is hard, man. At my gym, we did a competition where we could simply see how many reps people could get at 130 kilograms on the squat. I'd say most people on a good day would squat 130 for like 6 or 7 at my gym and go, that was tough. I only had a few left in me. Some of the boys got over 20 repetitions at 130 when push came to shove and they really full sent it. You have more in the tank than you think you do. Right. 1 rep from failure. Leaving 1 rep in the tank. This is the sweet spot for smaller muscle groups and non-technical exercises. Going 1 rep from failure and not breaking techniques requires some technical mastery. So you better have your complex movements on lock if you're going to push them that hard. But smaller muscles, side delts, curls, push downs, push that shit all the way. Training to failure isn't necessarily linearly more gains. It's a pretty steep drop off once we get to 2 or 3 to failure, and the fatigue that we create is disproportionate. But you still want to be training things hard and not leaving much in the tank. Actual failure training. This is the best thing to do if you're training a muscle group very little, and it's non-technical and safe. Obviously, don't back squat to failure. You'll die. But a leg extension to failure is totally safe. If you're only training 3 sets of side delts a week, you may actually want to take all 3 of those sets to failure and perhaps even beyond. Yes, you'll generate a lot of fatigue, but if you're only training side delts for 3 sets, you're not limited by fatigue in that area. You're limited by how much you're stimulating it. So you could go until you fail, then grab lighter dumbbells, do a drop set, and continue to go. And that's probably your most productive training in your program for you. All of these rep ranges have different effects. Most of your training should be done from 5 reps to failure. If you're having trouble with the output of that, the discomfort, the effort required, find some way to overcome those challenges. Challenge yourself to start at 5 reps from failure and each week just go 1 rep closer. Find exercises that don't hurt as bad. Pick a rep range that's lower, maybe 7 reps, rather than one that's 15, where training 15 reps to failure on most exercises is very painful. Training 7 to failure demands effort, but not as much pain. Train with a partner, train with a coach, train with a team. All of these ways are to overcome that discomfort. Each thing needs its place. When I first started training, I was biased far too much to training to failure. I felt like I was training very soft, and so I needed to prove to myself that I was outputting the most I possibly could every training session. What eventually happened is I was creating so much fatigue per training session, it was hindering my progress. Sometimes the hardest thing to do, if you're a hard worker or you have a bit of a chip on your shoulder like I did, is to be strategic, be patient, train 4 to 5 reps from failure, then 4 reps, then 3 reps from failure, then 2 reps from failure. Sometimes some of you need to go from what is actually a 9 to 8 reps from failure and bump it up, raise the intensity, and train harder. It does have an impact for muscle growth and for getting stronger. Find out where your intensity range should be for your goals and nail them. Dial them in. The best thing you can do, actually do a set to failure. See how many you can truly get, film it, keep yourself honest, and then work backwards. If you know you can get 10 reps over the leg press at 220, then you know that if you did 7 reps, it'd be 3 from failure. Then start building the program from there. Do a test set. They're fun, they're hard, but they're fun. Hope this helps.